Did you see how fast the Steelers took their card to the table?
Yeah, so that they did run
They
to
didn't
the
even
table.
wait 2 minutes.
Right. That's and of course they go Najee Harris,
Yep.
running back out of Alabama, who has been that player that was mocked to the Steelers for a long time. It appears to me, as Alan throws it up on Steelers now, the Steelers realized they needed to fix their running back position. They clearly do not love the running back group. The running back group was a problem for the team last year. You can say the offensive line was also part of the issue. They have said that before. It held back the team. They're trying to improve themselves for next year in a true need position as well as the future. Again, I don't love drafting a running back, even an elite one, even with that pedigree in the first round. The shelf life, the fact you don't need an elite one to win, and that second contract being so rare. They go Najee Harris, and they do it despite the board falling in favor of the Steelers. They have to make that tough decision that now will be scrutinized. So, Nick, Alan, Cale, are you going to scrutinize?
Yes.
Who wants to scrutinize first?
Here's the thing. We talked about this for 3 months. Like, we scrutinized this. We figured this would happen.
We have litigated this already, yes.
Like, it's prepared. Like, it doesn't hit hard because we thought that they were going to take Najee Harris. Everyone knew it. Everyone knew this, that Najee Harris was going to become a Pittsburgh Steelers, the worst-kept secret in the NFL, bar Trevor Lawrence becoming a Jaguar.
So this board falling almost didn't matter. As long as he was there, this appears that he was the pick. It didn't matter otherwise.
They ran it in.
So would he have been the pick even with Darashaw was still there?
I think so.
Yeah. How crazy would that have been?
I'm telling you, man. You know, Najee Harris, let's get this out of the way. The Steelers are going to improve their running game in some aspects with Najee Harris.
Sure.
Running backs don't improve everything. Lines are more tangible than a running back, but an elite running back can help your running game. And more importantly here, Najee Harris is going to give them a receiving back they have not had since prime Le'Veon Bell. He's an elite receiver. I think that might have been a bigger thing for them too. I think they needed another pass catcher in some manner, whether that was a tight end or something, or a running back. I think they're going to get another option here.
Yeah.
It's going to give them a more efficient passing offense. They don't have to feed Deontay as much. They don't have to feed Juju. They can now go to a safety valve in Najee Harris.
And you're kind of appeasing Ben and the quarterbacks in addition to providing a running game, which helps for play action and just the team in general. Yes. It could still even be pass attempts. It could still even be a passing part of the game because he could take it from there.
Correct. And listen, Najee Harris is a very good football player. I had a first-round grade on him. He was my 17th overall player.
Right.
He wasn't the top player on the board, but he was the second best player on the board for me, behind Greg Newsome. And that's just because I love Greg Newsome. I don't think many teams did love him. So, listen, this was a good football player. And if you're talking about true talent, he probably was BPA here. I mean, JOK is up there as well, but Najee's right there. So, I mean, it's tough passing on a positionless player like JOK that could have given you a slot corner option, or a Jenkins that could have been the starting right or left tackle on day one. Mm-hmm. But Najee Harris is going to have a tangible difference. It's just not what I would have done. And again, we've talked about this ad nauseum for the past 2 months at this point.
Seriously.
So, yes, again, running back is a position that's dependent on more positions. It's the only position in football that is more dependent on other positions than any other position. It depends on the O-line. It depends on the quarterback. It depends on the passing game. It depends on the OC more than any other position.
I was going to say it depends on the coach. Yeah.
Yep.
You look at percentages of even usage of running backs, and 2017 was the last time the Steelers even really used the running back to incredible effectiveness. I believe they were 15th in rushing. They haven't been close to that since. That was the last full year of Le'Veon Bell. We'll see what happens here in the future. We'll see if we see more 40-plus, 70 pass attempt games from Ben, if he has the confidence in Najee Harris now that he ends up being the pick again. Najee Harris, if you're just tuning in, if you're living in a rock somewhere, Najee Harris is the pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers at 24. They ran with that card. It does appear they would have went Najee Harris no matter what. Alan, you were
that's a pick for Nick's mock draft.
Yeah, and that's another one for Nick. Absolutely. Back-to-back years. So we'll give him, there you go, once again. So despite scrutinizing Nick, also you have to, when you're analyzing the NFL draft, you have to appreciate being correct. So it's all about being right. So Nick is correct here. I do think the board fell a little differently than some would have expected, but it does appear, Alan, does it appear to you the Steelers were that our conversation the last hour and a half almost was moot, and the Steelers were going to select Harris no matter what, as long as he was there? Is that now the vibe you're getting?
I don't know. I mean, I wrote this morning on the site or this afternoon on the site that I thought they were going to go offense no matter what.
Right.
That Art Rooney made a pledge that they were going to fix this running game. That's all he talked about in all of his offseason availabilities. And then through free agency, their running game got worse, right? They lost James Conner. They lost Alejandro Villanueva, well, probably. They lost Matt Fowler. They lost Marquise Pouncey. They lost Vance McDonald. They're a worse running football team before this pick than they were at the end of last season, and they were the worst running football team in the NFL last season. So it was a significant issue and one that Art Rooney pledged to fix. And Mike Tomlin was very adamant on Monday that he's the boss, that Art Rooney's the boss. And at the end of the day, what he wants is what the Steelers are going to get. So I was pretty sure they were going to go offense. And I think what it comes down to is I think Harris is the player that fixes their run game the most of the guys that made sense to take right here, right now. If Darrisaw was still on the board, I would not agree with that. And I think Tevin Jenkins is a really good run blocker. Don't get me wrong. But you should still be able to get a really good tackle in round 2, whereas I'm not sure the Steelers are going to get the same kind of quality running back in round 2 right now. And the really good players, the players that I think they're going to feel like 5 years from now they missed out on taking, are on the defensive side of the ball. JOK and Newsome. And I don't think that was their focus. I think their focus was the running game. I do think they got laser focused on that part of their game, that they wanted this pick to fix the running game, and they made it to fix the running game. Obviously, it's a running back, but I just think that's where their head was. And so I'm not sure they were nailed in on Najee. I'm not as convinced about that, but I am convinced they were going to take an offensive player with an eye towards fixing the running game. And that's exactly what they got. He will not be I don't think he's going to go down as some kind of all-time great draft value pick, taking Najee Harris at 24, but he should be a really good player at a position in need. And they got some work to do in front of him on the offensive line.
And while taking a running back is somewhat of a controversial decision in the first round because of today's NFL, one benefit, a major weakness of the team the last several years, is now guaranteedly going to be improved. Cale, are you able to come around at all to this pick?
Well,
we were on the same page in terms of running backs in the first round. You didn't even want to throw the vibes out there.
Listen, I think there's no denying that Najee Harris is a fantastic football player and the best running back in this draft. I mean, that is just, you're in denial if you don't.
Yeah, I feel like people are bashing him too much to say that.
I think we all know that that's the case.
Right.
It's just a matter of, was he the right pick for the Steelers with the 24th selection? And I still tend to think no. And yes, will he provide some marginal improvement to the Steelers running game next year? Yes. I think that Najee Harris right now is better than James Conner, okay, in probably every facet of the game. But like Nick said, the running back position is so reliant on everyone else, and Allen laid out all of these people that they lost from a run game that was already the worst in the NFL, and they didn't address any of those issues. So now you still remaining have to find a tackle, a center. Center is probably the most glaring issue on this offensive line. We keep talking about tackle, but because we never thought that they were in the right mind would take a center with the 24th pick, or at least we all would have thought that was a reach, regardless of who it was, Humphrey, Dickerson, or whoever. And they're going to have to take a tight end at some point too, because Eric Ebron's not going to stick his nose in there and block. So the problem right now is, yes, Najee Harris is an excellent player. One of the best pure talents in this draft as a football player, as a difference maker, as a playmaker. But the problem is he's so reliant on everyone else that is he really going to be able to show his stuff? Is he really going to be able to be his full self and perform the way everyone expects him to be because of the Steelers' deficiencies elsewhere? And that's my big concern with the pick is I thought you could improve the stuff in front of whatever running back you pick, and whoever you took later would be able to excel because of the pieces around them. And I look at the Steelers' offensive line and the offensive front as currently constructed, and I'm not certain that Walter Payton could get positive yardage behind this line if we're looking at it as it's currently constructed. So I think the odds are stacked against Najee Harris because he's going to be fighting off and having to evade. I'm glad that he's light on his feet. He's agile for his size. He's incredibly elusive for the player that he is because he's going to have to dodge a lot of people 2 yards deep in the backfield when he gets handed the ball as this offensive line is currently constructed. Now, they can still address this over the next few days here, but are those guys going to be the difference makers that maybe a Tevin Jenkins would have been? Or if you wanted to take Creed Humphrey there at center. I think the other thing, too, with Najee Harris is, are we so certain and convinced that Ben Roethlisberger is going to commit to, okay, I'll throw the ball less, and we're going to let this running back carry it 16, 17 times a game? I'm not so certain that he's going to do that. I know that he's coming back for one more year and one more go at it.
He did it for Le'Veon Bell. But yeah.
He did it for Le'Veon Bell, but we saw last year the Steelers were on a roll through the first few games of the season. They were doing all these Matt Canada jet sweeps and intricate things, and then they kind of tossed it out the window because clearly the real shadow offensive coordinator on this roster, Ben Roethlisberger, wasn't too sold on doing that. And now Randy Fichtner's gone. You have Matt Canada, but is Ben Roethlisberger going to fully buy into what Matt Canada wants to do? And that's my other concern is, did you take a running back that is only going to touch the ball 10 times a game?
I don't think they did.
The ball 12 times a game because Ben Roethlisberger is not going to commit to that. That they're not going to fully commit to letting him be the workhorse, the bell cow that Mike Tomlin loves so much.
We all know that Ben Roethlisberger.
That's my other concern with this pick.
Yeah, we all know that Ben Roethlisberger likes to throw the football. He jokingly said that he would throw it 70 times a game if he could, and I think he was dead on serious. And we saw that towards the end of the season. We saw that in the playoff game. We saw the result of that situation. We've even seen through his entire career, he gets that many pass attempts. It's not usually a recipe for success for the Steelers, despite, of course, him being a Hall of Famer. This team would be better suited to have a running game. I do feel like the offensive line being improved could have helped the rest of the running game. You could have got that elsewhere. The only benefit here is you guarantee to help the running game in some aspect, and that was a major weakness to the team as we stand, probably the worst running back group in football. But if the offensive line's not getting done, it won't matter. I will say, though, I imagine there had to be conversations with Ben to this point, especially when he did take less to come back, about adding the running game. I'd imagine Najee Harris is that one guy that they feel is elite enough that Ben would be comfortable sharing some of the limelight with, especially because Ben coming back one more year wants to go out on a better note. It's not even in Ben's best interest to chuck 70 passes a game. He may think it is, but obviously it is not.
Yeah. Listen, Ben can pass that many times, but it clearly showed last year it wasn't going to be tangible for the next year. If he was going to come back and you weren't going to improve the run game, there was no point in him returning. I mean, straight up. Now, listen, my personal feelings towards the pick right now, I think, are going to largely depend on what they do tomorrow in round 4. If they come back and attack the O-line position, we've talked about the deep O-line class. If they can attack the O-line position and improve the O-line, still get Najee Harris, it's not as bad of a pick. But you kind of look at what Najee does. If you're taking a round 1 running back, you have to get this guy a lot of touches. It's as simple as that.
There's no point of doing it otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise, if you take a round 1 running back, you are looking for instant impact potential in all facets of the game. Otherwise, you don't take the guy. This is exactly why they took Najee Harris. They think he can be an instant impact to the running game, give a boost in the receiving game, be the best pass protector on the blocker immediately. All of that is exactly why they took Najee Harris. And I think Najee, he could be a catalyst next year, but again, I don't love it. We'll see what they do in the next 2 days. That's